Welcome in to the Launchpad podcast, now presented by Clutch City Control Room. I'm sure many of you that are hearing this are going to have seen the announcement that we made earlier on in the day. We're recording after the Timberwolves game, and this is going to drop tomorrow. But we're going to do our announcement earlier on in the day, just so that everyone knows what's going on. We're going to get into that a little bit here in the next segment that's coming up, but just to start out, kind of keep things uniform, how we usually do it. I'm your host, Don Knock, joined by my fellow host, Paulo Alves, soon to be adopted Houstonian, coming soon. We'll get into that as well a little bit in the pod. So let's just start out. We decided a few weeks ago, less than a week ago,
Less than a week ago.
that we were going to have to make a transition. We were presented with basically two options of joining this new project or staying with Apollo. We kind of canvassed other people that were with Apollo at the time. We canvassed other people that we really respect in the Rockets media and Twitter community. And this is the decision we came to take this leap of faith and transition into this. Have creative control, have some managerial control over the entire project. That is something that's going to be new for us, is having a lot of input on how the entire organization structure is ran. I think that's going to be very valuable. Paolo and myself, we are not 10-year veterans of doing this, but I feel like in the short time we've done it, like we've really grinded and really seen what works, seen what doesn't work. Can know how to understand how other people produce content and what their workflows are. Doing our spaces, we have to work with 5 hosts, right? You have to know what everyone does and what everyone's capable of doing, stuff like that. So I'm happy. I'm happy being over here. I think we're gonna have a great group of people. The roster is gonna come out in full with the U of H side and the Rocket side. But let's get the plugs in now. You can follow me at Don Knock. You can follow Paulo at Paulo Alves NBA, and you can follow the Clutch City Control Room account at, let's see, what is it? We're gonna have to get used to saying this. At Clutch City CR. There you go. So Clutch City CR on Twitter. Obviously, subscribe to the pod. You'll be able to get everything. Apple, Spotify, and Paulo, over to you, man. Let's
I mean,
tell people what you're feeling.
most importantly, I think this was about us betting on ourselves. We are starting kind of our thing, right, with some content creators that we are friends with and that we respect and that we believe are a good mix with us for us to continue doing our content and the best content we can make for you guys. And I think we've got some really exciting stuff planned. I know, like, you can go to the Quality Control Room Twitter page, and there will be an article there, kind of explaining everything, and how, if you want to, how you can support us, what's the best way. We're now going to run a lot through our YouTube channel, which is, I'll be transparent. I'm always transparent, which is the better way of monetizing this type of content. Like, I don't know if you guys know how podcasts work. You either monetize via ads, and that works in all platforms, or you monetize via the views you get on YouTube. And so, if you guys want to support us, if you guys think, like, if it doesn't make that big of a difference for you, it's better for us if you're watching on YouTube, but don't feel obligated to do that. Like, we mostly, it's never been about the money for us. So we enjoy talking Rockets. That's been the substance of this podcast since its very beginning, at least under like with us as hosts. It's going to continue to be that. We're going to continue recording 2 podcasts a week at the very least for you guys. Me and Don are going to remain the hosts. We have great guests that we have planned out even over the next week. I think you guys are going to really enjoy that, so stay tuned. And at least, I'm pretty sure I speak for them as well. Our drive to be great is even higher than I believe it ever was, and I truly believe that we've got some really exciting stuff that you guys are going to want to tune in for.
And one other thing on that note is we are going to be bringing the spaces under the Clutch City Control Room umbrella. So, everyone that loves the spaces, we will now have all 5 hosts under the same platform. We're going to have Zeke on here with us as well. Very excited to have that. That was not the case before. Zeke will remain in his role at Dream Shake, but also, function as a host with us in the Apollo. Or sorry, in the Clutch City Control Room. It's gonna take some time to get used to in the Clutch City Control Room. Twitter Spaces moving forward. Uh, Other order of business, yes, my hair color did change. I'm now Super Saiyan Dawn. So if y'all are feeling it, let me know. I've been getting some
If
good feedback.
if you want to trigger Don instead of Super Saiyan Don, call him MGK Don. All right.
Do not call me that. Do not call me Jake Paul either. I we have started. Well, I may be handing out some blocks behind anything like that, but uh, I think let's just go ahead and do this now, or whatever. But um, because we were going through the transition period, it didn't make any sense for us to post podcasts that were unsorted or uncategorized or anything like that. So that's why we haven't had any podcast content out for the last couple of weeks. We wanted to make the transition fully, make sure all of our resources and utilities were going to be, up to par and everything looks good. Like all the framing, we have the new graphics package. Let us know if y'all like that in the comments as well, or let us know on Twitter and in group chats or anything like that.
And
Uh,
even further than that, if you have any ideas of content that you'd like to see us make, if you have any ideas of guests you'd like to see us bring on, if you think there's something we do that we could do better, make sure to tell us that because we really appreciate the feedback, positive or negative. It's about getting better, and yeah, that will like always be the main goal.
Absolutely. Do you want to just cut it there and then we'll move on to the game that just happened? Is that fine?
Yeah, that works. I'll see you
Yeah,
guys in 2-3 seconds for y'all.
cool. So don't go anywhere, y'all. We'll be right back. Yeah, here on Clutch City Control Room Podcast Network, and we are back. The Launchpad Podcast, continuing on here. So, the first segment we just kind of talked about like our transition and what we're doing and moving forward with this project. In the second segment here, we're going to talk about the Rockets' most recent game against the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Minnesota Timberwolves didn't have Patrick Beverly suiting up for them, but they still had, their potential all-star pairing of Karl Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards. Those guys made a significant impact on this game. Anthony Edwards, it looked like early on in the game that he had injured his leg, and then a few plays later came back with a monster dunk, and he ended up being fine. Karl Anthony Towns also had a pretty big game, 28 points for him, and 22 from D'Angelo Russell as well, 33 for Edwards. So those three guys, the Timberwolves really, they pushed them across the finish line. The Rockets made a fake comeback. Uh, and then it got
The
to about
typical.
six. Yeah, it got to about 6 or 8. I can't remember which. And then, how do you say the zebras were on the run? Is that the
Exactly.
correct
To
phrase?
quote, as the great DeMarcus Cousins once said, the Zebras were very much on the run.
So yeah, this wasn't a game that for the tankers out there that we really needed to win. It was nice to see them get back into the game and really get turned around because they went down big and it could have just turned into a blowout, especially when they pulled Jalen out at the end of the third quarter. The dialogue on Twitter was a lot of people saying, "Hey, they're gonna not put Jalen back in again. This is usual Silas, all that stuff." And what ended up happening instead was that Jalen Green went back in the game. Josh Christopher started, becoming very aggressive, driving to the rim and shooting. Um, that deficit started to close, and then right towards the end of the game, which was a surprise for a lot of people, was Jalen Green went up to try to dunk it or finish or whatever the case may be. And in the previous play, Alperen Sengun had been kind of held by Karl Anthony Towns, and then they called an offensive foul on Sengun. Um, Steven Silas ended up coming from one side of the court to the other side and going after the referees. and Coach Sauce ended up getting ejected. And I know on this podcast earlier on the season, we had made a call like, hey, you can't let your guys just keep getting abused by these referees, right? Or keep getting abused by the other team and like not having the referees make calls to keep those guys safe. I mean, especially Jalen, right? Jalen's someone who plays with incredible athleticism and very functional athleticism. He's flying through the air, he's dunking on people, he's very fast. And like when you play that type of basketball, it's very, it's very you have a higher likelihood of getting injured playing that way versus someone who plays like Nikola Jokic or even someone that plays like Alperen Şengün, right? Playing more of like a floor-based game, a lot less risk of falling out of the air, a lot less risk of getting hit off axis and things like that, coming down, landing strangely. So from that perspective, I really liked seeing Silas stick up for his guys. In the post game, they talked about how they had never seen Coach Silas this riled up or animated before, and good on him. I think I wasn't the only one that had been calling for that for a long time. Of go out there and defend your players. I think that's really going to be a lot of the big takeaway from this game. Will be that Coach Silas finally got a tech. I think someone else got a tech in this game as well. I think it was Matthews or Tate. I don't know if you can
Yep,
remember that,
it was
but
Matthews, I think.
it was Matthews, and rightfully so. Those guys are going to have to pay the fine for the text, which you don't want that. But the referees
It's
having
just
respect for these
charity; they'll
guys,
be okay.
yeah, yeah. But the referees having respect for the young guys has been an issue all season, and hopefully that doesn't continue going forward. I don't know how much these one game of text will impact it, but that was I think what the big takeaways are going to be from this game. Josh Christopher and Jalen Green both having 30 points in the same game is going to be a huge takeaway as well. Josh Christopher career high for him. Jalen Green going above 30 for the fourth straight game and just continuing to make everyone that questioned him early on in the season look very foolish. But yeah, those are my general thoughts and takeaways. What do you think? What are you thinking after this one?
Yeah, I think. I mean, I was definitely happy for what Silas did, sticking up for his guys. We definitely got the short end of the whistle as we have for most of the season. We were making a comeback and we got like back to back to back calls against us on the offensive end, two offensive fouls and one non-call on Jalen. And like at that point, like you got it within 8, and then you got like you got you got the short end of the stick three offensive possessions in a row. So I like that Silas had the fire in him to go after the refs. I mean, if you get ejected, like, what really are you losing? Like, you're losing the money. Yeah, it's charity, so it isn't really that bad. And like the game's already over, so you're not really losing the point from the technical free throw. Um, yeah. Besides that, I think there was like three main takeaways from this game. Jalen kept up, and we'll get into this in the last segment. Jalen kept up his insane scoring and insane efficiency that he's had for like 2 months now. Josh Christopher is someone who really sneaks up on you, like box score wise. You don't really notice what he's doing, but then at the end of the game, sometimes he catches you off guard. He has 20 points, or he gets to 30 points, and he doesn't really get the ball. Like he's not really out there like hogging the ball. He's just taking shots when he gets them open. He's pushing it in transition every single time, and he's attacking closeouts. So it's definitely, I think, a really good game from Christopher, and it really shows the kind of role that he can have. Think he'll need to get better on the defensive end. I know that he has the attitude and he has the work ethic to do so. It'll be more about the IQ and more about like getting used to playing against these NBA athletes. So yeah, I was really impressed by him. Sengun had a good game as well. He was really efficient. Had 15 and 14 or 14 and 15 with doing a couple of assists. He did have a lot of turnovers. But that's to be expected with a guy like LP. Well, he figures it out while he's going to attempt those flashy passes, and until the team gets used to those kinds of passes, he's going to rack up a lot of turnovers. Um, yeah, I think it was a good game from that end as well. And I think something that we should talk about as well is KPJ was, to me, was a big this game. Like this was one of those games where it really highlights all the concerns people have with him. He was inefficient. He had 8 turnovers. It wasn't a loose handle this time. It was mostly that the T Wolves were like, those plays the Rockets run pretty much at the half court line, like those dribble handoffs. Um, the T-Wolves were playing really far up, and they knew the Rockets were going for that, and they did, and KPJ in specific didn't adjust and kept trying those passes, even though the Timberwolves were clearly playing the passing lanes. So he racked up a bunch of turnovers off that. He had some of those plays that are typical from him this year, where he dribbles up to the top of the key, or he dribbles up like just inside the 3 point line, and then he picks up the ball. He like picks up his dribble, and then sometimes he finds someone to pass it to, sometimes he doesn't. And when he doesn't, um, if the Timberwolves were playing the passing lanes as they were, that's going to turn into turnovers. And then on the defensive end, he was not locked in at all. He was like getting blown by. We've seen improvement from him on the defensive end, and I cannot understand if you're not trying your hardest, considering the team is pretty clearly not caring too much about wins right now. So I can see kind of why this is, but it was definitely not a good showing for him defensively and the entire team for that matter. I'm not saying KPJ was the reason we lost, far from it. Every single person on this team, besides Jalen, up until halftime, was a liability defensively. They were not playing good defense. Jalen less so, and why do I say this? Because he had 4 fouls at the beginning of the third. Like some of them were bullshit calls, and so from there on out, he didn't want to foul out, so he like wasn't as physical as he could be on defense. He wasn't contesting as many shots because he was afraid of the way the refs were whistling the game to get thrown out. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much all of my takeaways of this game. And then the KPJ stuff, man, it's tough because he doesn't have long on his contract, and the Rockets are going to have to eventually make a decision on paying him or not. I don't think he's going to get paid this offseason.
Yeah,
Uh,
I don't think he is either. I know we discussed this earlier in the year, but I think what's going to end up happening is they're going to let him go into restricted free agency, and I think they're just going to say go out and see what you can get on the market, and if they get
yep.
something reasonable, then they'll try to match. Because I think they let Capella go that direction before. Obviously, it's a somewhat of a different front office. Daryl Morey was running the show at the time, but I I don't see this really going the direction of an extension this year, unless he just gives in to some sort of completely team sided deal, right? I don't think it's gonna go
Even
that
then,
direction personally.
even then, the only way I can see a deal getting made if like the years down the line on his contract are non-guaranteed, so the team can like easily get rid of him. Because the thing with KPJ is his ceiling's really high, but his floor is someone who isn't even in the league because of his mental issues and attitude issues, right? And so that floor being so low it will always be tough for a team to pay him long term. So even if he commits to a lower like a AAV, I think that's the correct term. Like even if he commits to a low salary per year, a long contract might make the Rockets look like geniuses down the line, but it's a huge risk, and I don't think they're willing to take it. So I think KPJ has had like 3-4 games this season where you could see his attitude issues like flaring up, and I don't think the Rock with those concerns, I don't think the Rockets will ink an extension with him. I think they'll let him hit free agency. He'll be restricted, so they'll have like right of first refusal with whatever contract he gets offered. And if he can get his shit together next year and not have any of these flare-ups that are the real concern, then maybe they can extend him long term and then maybe they can trust him. But he needs to go the full next year without any of these problems. And even that is questionable because you never know if the Rockets draft Jaden Ivey, all of a sudden is KPJ your starting point guard still? Or you never know. And it's definitely going to be interesting. I'm not giving up on KPJ. He's one of my favorite players, but there's definitely some things that you can point out. And this game was one of those games where pretty much everything you are scared of, basketball wise, was really happening out there.
Yeah, and kind of what you were talking about earlier, KPJ, the Timberwolves really kind of anticipating some of the plays and things like that. I still think that the decision making and some of the execution late in the game was just not, even for KPJ, it was just not on his his upper range of outcomes in this game compared to others. I think he just came in, played a little bit sloppy. He just wasn't making good decisions with the ball. 8 turnovers kind of reinforces that. But I mean, he had the play late where he just had to throw a lob to Josh Christopher, just way overshot that. He had another play where I think you mentioned it, where he just got picked the ball up too early, got stuck, and then tried to force a pass over two defenders. And again, like I'm as much pro KBJ as pretty much anyone on here, but this is not. He's coming off a good stretch of games, so I don't want to really overblow this one game just because we didn't record after those games, and now we're finally recording now. So hindsight is very reflective of recency bias, I should say. But I do think that keeping the turnovers down is going to be very critical for him, no matter what direction the team goes.
Yeah, and just being smarter as a point guard. Like South's system relies a lot on his point guard, and KPJ, if he is to be that point guard, he needs to be consistent on a night-to-night basis, just because there's such a huge role that he plays. And sometimes you wonder if the IQ is there. Like Jalen had 12 first quarter points, and he had 15 at the half. He had just made a three, and the last minute of the first half, it's KPJ ISO into a step back three times in a row. Sometimes dribbling the clock off, sometimes just early in the shot clock. And it really deflated the team that he took like 3 possessions in a row where it just didn't work out. And then what we saw after that was Jalen finally got the ball and he forced up a 40-foot shot. And you could tell like he was kind of like, really, dude, like this, like we were playing so well, and then this happened, and I think you could sense some frustration, and that's always going to be a concern with KPJ. Hopefully, he can get through it. I believe he can get through it. And once again, has one more year, and after that,
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah, I think the last couple of games and then whatever we have in preseason, um, KPJ is probably not going to play summer league. Getting into the first couple of games of next year, just watching what the KPJ offensive processing and the point guard processing looks like. Is he making more advanced reads? Is he using his scoring ability to really leverage guys into different situations to create advantages for his teammates? Or is he, settling for shots? That's what I'm going to be watching for with KPJ. And, the fit with Jalen, we've given them all year to learn and kind of grow together. It's always tough when you have two combo guards of like it not being your turn, my turn, and getting them both involved in the offense when they're both hot. Jalen scored 30 points 3 games in a row, so you really can't say he's been uninvolved kind of the way you could earlier where, we were calling him Trevor Ariza or Trevor Ariza Roll or Tim Hardaway Jr.
Tim
Roll or
Hardaway
all this stuff.
Jr. role.
Yeah. And so I don't think Jalen hasn't been involved. Could Jalen have been, you know, used more effectively if KPJ, had better, he was making better reads, making better game situational awareness decisions? Yeah, I think he probably could have, but I don't think earlier on in the season people were
It's
like KPJ is limiting Jalen Green's growth. I don't think we're
Oh,
at that
no,
point
no, no.
anymore. I don't think we're at
I
that point anymore.
I think it's not even about Jalen in specific. It's about the team sometimes goes on stretches
Yeah.
of 1-2 minutes where they just don't run any sets and it's just KPJ ISO. And that's even for the rest of the team. Like that's not how you want to build your habits. So KPJ needs to. It's one of the things he needs to get better at is realizing he's the point guard. He needs to be a consistent force at getting the team into sets. He needs to be the one correcting others. It doesn't need to be. He can't be the one that's being corrected because that's the point guard's responsibility. Like get the team into sets, and if the team's running out of control, and then you need to be the one bringing them back to earth. And KPJ feels like sometimes is the one like taking them off of Earth and up to the moon and whatever instead of the opposite, which is what you expect out of a point guard.
Cool. So I think that's going to do it for us for this segment. When we come back, we're going to talk about the last couple of weeks that we didn't get to comment on, and then a little bit of reflecting on some of the NCAA tournament stuff, and preview of what I guess we don't really need to do any prospect preview for the national championship game, so we can go into like a preview for um, the last couple of games of the year and what we want to see in that. So uh, don't go anywhere. We will be right back. And rolling into our last segment here on the Launchpad podcast, presented by Clutch City Control Room. I think we have it down now a little bit better than we did in the first segment. But so we're just gonna do some reflection on the last couple of weeks. Like we mentioned in the first segment, we have been on a little bit of a hiatus while we went through the transition process. So we're just gonna talk about some of the games, some of the happenings and events of the last couple of weeks, and preview a little bit of what we want to see from the team in their last few games. One of which we will be attending, both of us, for the first time. So definitely looking forward to
Yes,
that, and
sir.
we'll talk about that a little bit more at the end, and talk about your trip at the end. So go
Yeah,
ahead and kick us off on the last couple of weeks of Rockets basketball, man.
yeah. Basically, the last couple of weeks where the vets were shut down, so we are officially tanking. The young guys are getting all the run, and let me tell you, like it could not have been more fun. I think if we had gotten 82 games of this, nobody would have complained, no matter how many wins we would have gotten. It's just so fun to up and down the courts every possession care about what's happening. 'Cause let's be honest, like nobody really cares if an Eric Gordon Christian would pick and roll. Like nobody really cares what's happening there. Like those are not your mainstay guys that you think of when you think about the future. And so it's just been really fun. Like for instance, Schroeder is sitting, Christian Wood is sitting, Eric Gordon is sitting, and so the rest of the lineup's pretty much all young guys, right? So we've seen KPJ had a 30-point triple double that was amazing. We've seen Jalen Green the last 4 games in a row. He's scoring more than 30 or more points, and in really good efficiency. If like he started off the season really badly, he got down to a 46% true shooting. He's all the way up to 54%, and this is not counting tonight's game where he had 75% true shooting. So I'm not sure how much that will impact the stats. But he's been amazing. He's like shooting really well from three. He's moving off the ball. He's relocating. He like literally looks like a mini Steph Curry, just running around, getting open and shooting threes, and using his athleticism to like blow by people, getting amazing dunks, like getting amazing lobs. Like he's even shown us his handle, and he's been like breaking people down off the dribble. It's been amazing from Jalen, so much so that I mean I don't see any comparison. Like Zach Levine is a great player, Bradley Beal is a great player. I believe Jalen Green can just be better than them, and that's saying a lot. Um, when you look at it, he's a 6'6" guard who has insane athleticism, who's shooting really well as a 20-year-old. That's shown so much progress, playmaking wise and defensive wise, throughout the season that it's just tough to even figure out what would be a comp for him because usually these guys are not good defenders, and Jalen has been legitimately a good defender for the last month or so. He's fighting like he is on a team that loses pretty much every game by 20, and he's fighting through screens every single time. He's down 20, like sticking onto guards. He's down 20, like playing like he's a guy that's really quick, so he's going to stay in front of his guy a lot. And I can only imagine when he bulks up a little bit and he can't get as bullied as he is now. Like this guy really is the ceiling for him, both from a defensive standpoint, from a scoring standpoint, where he's shown a mid-range game, he's shown a three, he's shown a driving game, his finishing at the rim has gotten better. He has all the tools. Passing wise, he's shown uh, really good ability. I remember a game against the Nuggets where he's leveraged his gravity scoring wise to get other people open shots. He will position himself to get better angles to get passes off as well. He's a really low turnover guy. So it's just been amazing. It's just proven to me that Kevin Green is pretty much a lock for being a future star, maybe a future superstar. I can definitely see that being there. So it's just been an amazing couple weeks as a Rockets fan. And we didn't get to record the pod, but trust me, if we did, it'd be a lot of positive stuff because this has been the dream since the beginning of the season, at least the way I see it.
yeah, wanting the young guys to really be featured, and that was the goal coming into the season. I mean, you wanted to at least get some intel on how Christian Wood would look next to a guy like Alperen Şengün, or even next to Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr. Right? Because if KPJ and Christian Wood just are this incredible pick and roll pairing like we saw with James Harden and Christian Wood for those few games, then yeah, you're going to change your organizational decision making behind that. But we got to a certain point where it's like we're not going to make the play in. We're having these vets get significant run, and you know, I think I think the big line in the sand was when Eric Gordon didn't get traded at the deadline, because before that time, it was like, hey, you're showcasing these guys for trades, whatever the case may be, and that's like a good justification to continue to play them. And after the trade deadline, it's okay. Well, there's no more showcasing. I've even been some people have conveyed to me that like showcasing isn't it's not as much as it's hyped up to be. Like these teams have years and years and years of scouting on Eric Gordon. They know what Eric Gordon's capable of. Staying healthy is the biggest thing for him. A guy like David Nwaba, the team was looking at him in a trade, right? They have plenty of years of film on David Nwaba. And I think Christian Wood was the one guy where, because of the way he entered the league, the way his path has been, it's like, yeah, get him some extra run. See if he can fit with the young guys and all that type of stuff. If he can fit with Shingun, and so I was a little bit more fine playing Christian Wood stuff. But like you said, the last couple of weeks when they've just really unleashed these young guys and shown what they can do. Even Garuba had a pretty good game out last time. There was some of the jokes of he had 0 points and whatever, but I mean he had like 14 rebounds or something crazy like that. So you're seeing some Garuba flashes tonight. He finally did score.
He had
He
6 and
did,
6.
yeah. So he did a little bit of his work out of the dunker. He did a little bit of his work, you know, picking and rolling. So you have four guys that were drafted in this recent draft, and to have all those guys be on the court producing, that's about as good as it gets if you're a Rockets fan, right? Along with getting the losses without having to, just do some Portland or Oklahoma City
Some
level,
shameless level.
tankery. Yeah, just this all time level tankery that we're seeing out of those two franchises. We haven't had to do that. We can just go out there, let Jalen cook, let Josh Christopher cook, and we still get the result we wanted. Eventually it's going to come down to the lottery balls have to fall in our favor, but the team has largely set themselves up on three fronts that are really going to be good going in the future. The first front, they killed the last draft and they've gotten a lot of development reps from these guys. The second front, they really invested in their drafting, scouting, and development teams from the organizational side. So they brought in a lot of draft analysts. They brought in a lot of people that are known for player development. And Barbara Turner is going to leave and go be a coach somewhere in the WNBA, I believe. I'm not sure where. So I apologize for that, but hopefully they'll bring in some more player development people, and even Coach Silas. Coach Silas has been really hounded this whole year, but he's a player development coach. So as we see these guys start to round out towards the end of the season, like some of that has to be put on the shoulders of Steven Silas. We didn't like some of his offense, we didn't like some of his rotations, but we are seeing a lot of these guys pop off. But the last point of things the organization has done to set themselves up is put themselves in another position to get a top 5 overall draft pick. And those three elements, the future looks very bright. Obviously, we're a few years off of any sort of really title competitive run, but when James Harden left, the cupboard was pretty much bare. We traded picks to Oklahoma City. We traded all their picks like to do deals during the Daryl Morey era. Rafael Stone has brought in plenty of draft picks to the point where they were comfortable not making a move for Eric Gordon to get a pick this year because they wanted to kind of stretch out when those rookie extensions would hit, right, and things like that. And so, just as a Rockets fan, this is just an incredible time of hope, incredible time of looking forward and seeing what these young guys can do, and getting to watch maybe one of the future young guys in the NCAA tournament. And now we're going to transition into more of our draft and scouting on this podcast time of the year. And we'll do a lot of, I'm sure, hype building and scouting on Paulo, Chet, and Jabari, and That's basically
in
my big
that
takeaway right now.
order.
Not in that order. No, I mean if you want that order, that's fine. But I just named them off in the order they came to mind in. But yeah, exciting time to be a Rockets fan. Exciting time, um, just to be a fan of the league. I mean, the league is in such a good place right now, and I'm pleased the Lakers are down bad. I just want to get that one out
The
there
Nets
for
as well. The
posterity.
Nets
But
right now are the 10th
yeah,
seed, and we
yeah,
got their
and
pick.
that's another thing that this team has done to set us up for success is having those Nets picks, banking on that team not working out, and we'll see what Ben Simmons looks like. But I mean, could you just imagine right now if that Nets pick comes in as a top three pick? Basically,
that two that
the opposite of what happened to OKC last year. I mean,
that 2.5% chance that that shit fucking jumps up. That would have been nuts. I mean, then another thing is we've also coupled the games being really good with and the NCAA tournament and how hyped that has been. Looking at the guys that we want to be Rockets in the future. And another thing that's really shown, like, been obvious to me is this Rockets team without Christian Wood is a lot better for the young guys. And I know I'm the guy that's been wanting to trade Christian Wood for the longest time, but just look at it. Garuba and Shingun are out there setting real screens in their guards. The guards KPJ and Jalen are taking advantage of it, and it really shows you that even though Christian Wood is very much a slip screen, like a guy that's going to slip every screen into a post up, that doesn't mean that's how the um, the offense should run. I think most of the times the guards are better at taking advantage of those mismatches, and we've seen so far like how good they've looked. Like Jalen is legit over the last month or 2 months, over the last 2 months, averaging 23 and 3 on I think 47, 40, 79 splits. If you look at the last 3 games, he's elapsed 30 points per game in every single one of them. Like that's 4 games in a row. That's the first rookie to do that since Allen Iverson. So like just so you see like the magnitude of how good Jalen has looked. And I mean it's gotta be a cool to the front office. Like this guy's looking this good. Just gotta like he's gotta be the ultimate priority. And yeah, I mean we've gone through some tough times. Mobley Mob was coming at us all the time because we didn't draft Evan Mobley, and the entire league was saying Jalen's a bust. And then the last couple of months, it's just been so revigorating and so.
there is a reckoning going on right now. I don't know if you pay attention on Twitter right now, but the Jalen Green will be a bust tweets have been dug up and they are being ratioed to
Ooh,
the media right now. So
oh yes, please, and yeah, so it's been a great time. We have achieved in 1 year what franchises like the Orlando Magic took take 10 years to achieve. Jalen Green is very much a cornerstone level, guaranteed star, maybe a superstar level player. To get one of those players at 20 years old takes many teams like the Magic, like the Kings, like 10 drafts, and we got lucky in one. Like we were bad for the most important draft, so we got lucky because the draft was that important, was that good. Then in that very draft, we had a 50-50 at keeping the pick or not, and we won that 50-50. Not only did we win the 50-50, we got the second pick, so we could draft Jalen. That's a 14% chance. So combine all of these percentages, we got really lucky and like just really blessed as a fan base. Hopefully, we get
yeah.
lucky again this year when we can add another guy to be that fundamental young core for the future.
Yeah, and something that we've been tracking on this podcast for a lot of the season, and sometimes game to game, sometimes season long. Um, you know, where does Jalen Green rank in terms of field goal attempts? Because this is, for all the stuff Jalen Green has come in and overachieved in his rookie season. The playmaking, the defense, those types of things. You drafted this guy to put the ball in the hole, right? You drafted him to be a scorer, and so you want to get that guy as many shot attempts as he possibly can. And as of coming into tonight, Jalen Green leads the Rockets in field goal attempts for the season per game. So he's at 13.9, it's almost 14. Christian Wood at 12.9, Kevin Porter Jr. at 12.6. Those are your top three. So, we're finally seeing, everyone can say like the hierarchy, the pecking order, whatever you want. it is finally shaken out to where Jalen Green sits where he rightfully deserves on the top of that pecking order and taking the most shots. So that's a little Brad Muse stat of the day for y'all.
We should
Just getting
create
that
a
out
new
there.
segment, the Brad Muse stat of the day.
I like it. I like it. That was the Brad Muse stat of the day there. Jalen Green leading the Rockets in field goal attempts. Um, not leading in points. Christian Wood still leading the team in points, but I believe that's a function of free throw shooting. Um, so yeah, I think that we can, is that. Are you good with that? You comfortable with that for the discussion? And we got to talk about the
Yeah,
trip a little bit.
yeah, we can. Let's do it.
Okay, cool. So 3 days from now, 4 days from now, I guess. 3 days from now for you.
I was told there would be no math.
That's why I'm asking you the math. I will not do this math. You're getting the math outsourced to you, my friend. So yeah,
Uh,
one of those numbers of days, 3 or 4 days from now, Paulo will be flying over to Houston from Portugal. We have a big list itinerary planned. We're gonna go to a watch party on Friday night with the Summit State of Mind guys over at Urban South. I was just there last weekend on Saturday, warming it up, making sure it was good for everyone, making sure everyone was gonna be fit in there. So that place looks great. We're gonna be really ready to go with that. Um, I think that game's at 7 p.m. on Friday night at Urban South. So just want to plug it a couple times. If you want to come to something, you may not be able to make it to the game, whatever the case may be. It's free parking. You don't have to worry about parking. They have drinks. I think they have food trucks outside. So if you do want to eat dinner there or whatever, that's all going to be available to you. And I think we have a pretty good turnout. We had a good turnout the last time that they did one of these, and we had a good turnout the last time I hosted a Rockets Twitter event. We've been pumping this for a while now, so hopefully we see a lot of you out there. Additionally, and this is something to note that is important, it's important change wise. The game time for the game that we will all be attending, Rockets versus the Atlanta Hawks, has been moved to 2:30 p.m. on Sunday. So it is a midday game. So, some people say I can't make it to the 7 p.m. game. That's fine. It's a midday game. Everyone should be able to make it if you want to make it. If you want to come and hang out with us, we don't know what section we're going to be in yet. We have been asked that. We're not sure. We haven't been sent the tickets yet that we're going to go in with. But at halftime of that game, we will be doing a meetup in section 113 in the Corona
and
Extra bar.
I think we're
I
doing
think
something
now
pre-game as well.
Pre-game, we're supposed to meet up with Jonathan Sanford. So, shout out to him. Incredible dude. We're going to try to do that pre-game. We may also try to do a pre-game meetup. Now that we know it's a midday game, it makes it a lot more viable to do something after the game as well. We won't have to be rushing around. Be plenty of time if people want to hang out, meet you, meet the rest of the hosts, and you know, meet other people in Rockets Twitter. And I've made this I've made this statement a couple times. If you're on the fence and you're like, hey, I don't know if I want to go, I don't know if I want to go out and meet people or whatever, like you're not like a big extrovert type of person, I would recommend just go and try it out. Just go see what you think, give it a shot, because for me, being able to meet all these different Rockets Twitter people, make new friendships, make new relationships, it has been an incredible thing. And so I would definitely recommend, like, when you have something that you're that passionate about, to where you're listening to a podcast like this or going in our Twitter spaces or anything like that, for a team that's going to win 20 games, maybe 21 games on the season, you are a Rockets diehard fan, and it's just incredible to be able to go and interact with the people that think the same way as you, have that level of passion for basketball. So definitely recommend y'all come and stop by that. We're going to be going and hitting up a few restaurants. We've already kind of set those up as well. And then, yeah, so those are our big meetups that we're going to do. We may announce some other stuff, here and there as we move around. So definitely follow us on Twitter. You may have to put on some post noties that weekend if you want to see where we're at and see what we're doing. We will probably send out, we're probably going to go out one night at least. So if y'all want to go out on a night out with us, we can do that and make that happen as well. So, yeah, let's get one last thing in here. What are you most looking forward to when you come to Houston? We'll do a
Hmm.
basketball and a non-basketball wise.
Right. I mean, basketball wise, it's just watching Jalen Green play basketball. I mean,
Yes.
I'm sorry, it's not
No.
original, but it's just the truth. I mean, do you want me to lie to you and tell you something that's not true? No. So yeah, just watching Jalen play, he looks so spectacular on TV. So I want to see how does he look in person. I've never watched a basketball game in person, so there'll be a clash with reality as well. Basketball, for those that don't know, is not a thing pretty much at all in Portugal. It's like the fourth, fifth biggest sport, and then like it's like 90% football or soccer, whatever you call it. Then it's like volleyball, handball. I don't know. There's like a couple more sports in there, and then comes basketball. So that's like a 1%. Like you need to be a basketball person to play basketball. It's just not gonna be like in my city. You have what, two courts, and one of them doesn't even have the rims at the like NBA height. They're like lower on for younger people. So yeah, so watching the game is definitely my basketball thing. Non-basketball thing. I mean, I've been told about the food. I'm sure that's going to be amazing. I can't wait for it, but it's gotta be like just meeting everyone, like meeting all the guys that I've been talking to for I don't know, like half a year now, even more. Don's probably more than a year at this point. Meeting those guys, meeting all the people from the group chats, all the people from Rocket's Twitter, or the ones that show up. And if you're listening to this, like, please show up. I really want to meet you. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity that I have. I want to make the most out of it. And for me, like, don't think you're bothering. You're not bothering. I very much want to meet every single one of you. I want to put some faces to these avatars and some faces to these nicknames. And once you meet me, you'll see like my hot takes on Twitter. They're not that bad. I like to think I'm a good guy. So yeah, that's basically where I'm at and what I'm excited about.
Cool. So, uh, now everyone's caught up on all of our life goings on, all of our professional goings on with the pod and everything like that. Um, I think that's gonna do it for us. First episode on the new feed on the new Clutch City Control Room account. Uh, did it live up to the hype? I don't know. Let us know what y'all think in the comments and their mentions, the replies, and all that stuff. But yeah, I'm looking forward. I mean, I just want to say this as well. We've gotten, especially myself, have gotten wrapped up in a bunch of drama stuff over the last couple of weeks, and I think moving on to this new network and moving on to this new project, I want to kind of put some of that in the past. We've done some meetings, stuff like that, to kind of like know what we need to do to handle some of that stuff better. And yeah, so I guess for me, it's just turn over a new page here and get back to the
It's a fresh
basketball a little
start.
bit. Yeah, get back to the basketball, a little less on the drama side, a little bit more on the back to the content. That's really what got us here in the first place, is being content horses and just pumping out great content for you guys, watching a lot of Rockets basketball and just knowing what we're talking about. So we're gonna try to get back to that.
Hopefully.
um yeah, hopefully. You can't prevent everything. You can't plan for all situations, but I think that's gonna do it for us. I don't know where we're gonna blast all this links out from. We had a format when we were with Apollo. It may be a little bit of a different format now. We'll just see how we want to go about it. But if you want the podcast early, subscribe on iTunes and Spotify, and you'll get it there.
And
We'll have the
YouTube.
YouTube links. We'll subscribe on YouTube for sure, but we'll see how the YouTube editing process goes, and we'll see how fast we're able to get that type of stuff out. But you can follow me at Don Knock. You can follow Paulo at Paulo Alves NBA, and then you can follow the pod and then the new team at Clutch City CR. And yeah, that's gonna do it for us. So until next time, y'all, be safe and go Rockets.